My name is Brenda LeMaster. I'm a professor emerita from the University of Cincinnati. I worked in the Division of Professional Practice for 35 years. I had a couple of detours over that time. I served in the provost office in several roles. I was an acting vice provost for academic affairs, and I was the first vice provost for institutional effectiveness. And the women's leadership program was something that I was involved in back in the early 90s. I was one of the women that helped start the program. I was one of many women who put a lot of energy into it, so it wasn't something that I'm going to claim credit for, but it's something that I helped with efforts. There were a group of women, starting with a kernel of a couple, and then eventually growing to, I think we had about 12 on our first founders committee. And this group of women worked for almost a year to plan what we thought would be the best leadership development program for women on campus. It was a very eclectic group, and a group of women who had good connections across the university, so they knew how to develop budgets and who to go to and who might be most receptive to providing some initial funding. We had the tacit agreement that from the President's office that this was something that needed to be done, and one of the recommendations from the President's Advisory Council on Women was that we develop formalized training, leadership. Our goals were to as quickly as we could, provide a group of women who would be trained to take over in interim positions if we had leadership positions come vacant, women who were more known to the leadership of their colleges and departments who could be candidates for permanent positions. We wanted to make that happen as fast as possible. The first couple of years that the program operated, we were still tweaking the formula a little bit. But basically, it was the same from the beginning, and that was we would have one session a month, and women would come to that session. They had to commit ahead of time to be able to attend every session, because if they couldn't be there, then they were taking the place of a woman that might actually have been able to come to all of them and be able to make use of what they were learning there a little more quickly. So we had a lot of commitment and a lot of buy-in. The women who sat on the steering committee, each one of us were responsible for planning and making sure that the session happened. So I would routinely take assessment and accreditation, and I was responsible for finding who was going to come to speak to the women on that topic if there were. The idea was we needed to teach women what they weren't getting through informal mentorship or through formal development programs, which just didn't exist. So we had classroom settings. We met at least once a month. We played with that over several years to figure out what the right balance was. We ended up with a program that was approximately 30 hours of classroom, and then at the end of that, women had the opportunity to apply for an administrative internship, and they could ask anybody they wanted. They could ask the president of the university if he would like to have an intern. They could ask their dean, they could ask their department head. And so we decided that there was no better way to provide the training that we thought women on this campus needed than to ask people on this campus to provide the training. And so those same individuals who provided the funding in many cases were standing in front of that group of women on a monthly basis, providing training in their areas of expertise. And they got to know, these university leaders got to know the women in this program. So it was a happy, I think not quite accident, but it ended up providing additional ways for the women in these programs to get to know the leadership of the university. I'm not sure how many women have gone through that program by now, but I'm going to guess that it's been probably a couple of hundred, if not a little bit more than that.